B. Sweetwater, South Florida's only business radio station.
The following program is sponsored by Robert Henderson.
Welcome to the American Cream Show, providing you insight on how to achieve the American dream with cream. Credit, real estate, entrepreneurship, assets, and mindset. And now, here's your host of the American Cream, Hyacinth Henderson.
Happy Friday, everyone. Doesn't that theme music sound like we're getting ready to get down to business? That, to me, it does. That's why we selected that when I was listening to several tracks of music. That one says, this is business. It means business. So here we are. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am your host, Hyacinth Henderson. You are now tuned in to the American Cream Radio Show, broadcasting live from the beautiful studios of Miami, Florida. The American Cream is where we show you, help you, teach you, guide you on how to redefine the American dream on your terms with cream. And cream stands for credit, real estate, entrepreneurship, assets, and most important is mindset. With the positive mindset and the right mindset, you can achieve all of your dreams and desires. I'm your host, Hyacinth Henderson, and today we are going to be talking about real estate. For those of you who are joining me again, thank you so much for your loyalty and dedication. I appreciate you for taking this ride home with me today. This evening. And for those of you who are new to the show, a little bit about myself. I am a licensed stockbroker, an investment advisor, also an annuity and insurance broker. I am the managing director at the Henderson Financial Group, and the Henderson Financial Group is a full-service financial planning and investment advisory firm started some 30 years ago by my father, founder, CEO, Mr. Robert Henderson Jr. He is still with the firm. I see him 5 days a week, sometimes more when we're on vacation together. And I've been with the firm for 17 years. So just wanted to give you a little bit of background so you can know who you're listening to. And if you want to find out more information about me, feel free to visit my website. That's at hyacinthhenderson.com. That's www.hyacinthhenderson.com, and the firm's website is thehendersonfinancialgroup.com. Okay, so tonight we are going to get into real estate, and real estate is one of my all-time favorite subjects and topics to speak about. If you listen to me, if you ever heard me before, you will hear me talk about real estate and encourage you to think about real estate, because I firmly believe and know that real estate is one of the best ways, I will go out on a limb and say that one of the best ways and the most profitable ways to build, sustain, and transfer wealth. And so as I was preparing for the show today, Spirit said, let's go with real estate. And I realized that although I have been in the industry, in the business for many years, for some of our listeners, real estate, when I say, let's invest in real estate, it's a foreign topic. So I wanted to take you down a road of getting you prepared so that you can prepare to invest in real estate. Maybe it's going to be your first or your 10th property. As we prepare, as we know, the economy is making some movements. The stock market had another bad day today. We've had several of those within the last few weeks, and everybody's kind of on edge, waiting to see what's going to happen. Of course, no one ever knows the exact moment, date, and time, but we can look at signs and indicators. And as we look at signs and indicators, and as we prepare for some things to shift, folks are using the R word, which is recession. As we prepare for things to shift, I want you to ask yourself, how are you prepared other than waiting on the edge of your seat on pins and needles? How have you prepared? And I believe that real estate is a great way for you to seize the opportunity, right? So when the economy makes some moves and some things happen, I want you to understand when things shift and real estate goes on sale, that's when it's going to be your time to buy. when the property values are going down and people are complaining they got to foreclose or whatever their personal issues are, that is an indicator for you to say, hey, they're having a sale at my local department store. Now I'm going to buy. And in order for you to buy, you need to be prepared. You need to have some money, right? So if you want to go catch the New Year's Day sale at Dillard's every year on the first when they mark stuff down, you got to be able to have some money. You can't spend all your money doing Christmas shopping because you know on January 1st, Dillard's department store just slashes the prices like crazy. Same thing here. If you know the economy is shifting, you can't be spending your money on foolishness because you know that something is going to happen and you're going to need to be in a space to make some moves. That's at least if you want to seize the opportunity, right? So I'm going to take you through that, some things that you need to do to prepare. And I want you to understand something. When I speak about real estate, I'm not talking about real estate in a traditional sense. And when I say a traditional sense, I am not telling you to be prepared to move out of your mama house or your friend's house or the apartment so that you can then go buy your dream house. That's not what I'm suggesting that you do. That's not what today's conversation is about. Today's conversation is about you using real estate as an investment vehicle. Okay? Number one, the tax breaks that are associated with just owning real estate alone, that's enough incentive for you to own real estate, not real estate that you live in. Because when you live in the real estate, it's not an investment vehicle because you then have to pay that mortgage. You then have to pay the property taxes. You then have to pay all the repairs and keep the insurance and things like that on. And I know that some people argue with me and they say that my primary residence is an asset. And I'm going to tell you that it's not. It's not an asset because it doesn't produce any income. And people say, well, Hyacinth, what about when I sell the property? You know, if I buy a property for $200,000 and I sell it for $300,000, then I've made $100,000 in property in my primary residence. And I stop you right there and I say, first of all, let's think about all the monthly mortgage payments that you've paid, because although you purchased the property for $200,000 and you may be selling it for $100,000, you must include, if you want to get down to the real number, the monthly mortgage payments that you made. You must include all the repairs that you made over the years. You must include the realtor's fee for selling the property. You must include all property taxes. And then you will be able to realize what your true profit is of selling your primary residence or home that you lived in. So that's why I like to say and remind people and just show yourself that mirror that your primary residence is not an asset. The real estate I'm talking about today is investment property. So first of all, when I say tax breaks, I want everybody under the sound of my voice to understand that tax laws are incentives. Tax laws are incentives so that you can do certain things and the government will reward you by giving you a tax break. And I know, we don't like the government. We don't like taxes. As a matter of fact, if you have not listened to the latest episode of the American Cream podcast, be sure to do that. The most recent episode was just released yesterday. I have a great interview with certified public accountant Lydia Desnoyers, and she breaks down taxes and tax laws and the tax code. So go ahead and check out the podcast. It's on all your favorite podcasting platforms, whether you have iPhone, Android, if you have Spotify, download the podcast and listen to that episode. I also have an episode on there regarding qualified money and taxes. So back to real estate as an investment property and understanding that the government is going to pay you, will give you incentives for owning real estate. They're going to give you incentives for owning real estate because you provide housing. People need somewhere to live. And if you help the government with that, then they say, okay, great. You have a property. We're going to give you some tax incentives. And you know what else they do? If you mortgage that property, if you go get a building and let's say you put a $5 million mortgage on that property, the government is going to give you even more incentives. You know why? Because they want you to borrow money. I want you to think about that. So we'll get into that a little bit deeper, when we come back from break as far as mortgages, because I want to really touch on people feeling like they must pay their properties off free and clear, as if that's something to brag and boast about. But I want you to think about this. The tax incentives and breaks that the government gives you for owning real estate, and then also for mortgaging real estate. And the reason why they give you breaks and incentives for owning and mortgaging real estate is because debt is big business. Let me say that again. Debt is big business. When you borrow money and then you have to pay back the money, that keeps money circulating. That's a business. And when you're doing that, the government says, oh, wait, you got debt over here. Okay, cool. You're keeping the money flowing. You're keeping it circulating. You are creating more money by mortgaging property. So hold that in the front of mind as you start to embark on your real estate journey. As you start to embark on your real estate journey, forget about owning property free and clear, okay? Because we want to get the tax incentives associated with mortgaging property. Also, now is a great time to say, I am not a tax advisor. Any discussion herein about taxes for informational purposes only, broker-dealer, I know you're listening, feel free to consult your tax advisor before making tax decisions. I am simply putting the little bug in your ear, putting the bird in your ear so that you can know what is available to you. Also, today's conversation is not about flipping real estate. It's about buying and holding real estate. It's about holding real estate because we want to create income. We want to put as many pots on the stove as we can so that we can always eat. If the fire goes out under one pot on the stove, we want another pot to be lit. If your job lets you go because of the recession or because of the state of the economy or whatever the case may be, we don't want you on the food stamp line because you are getting income from your real estate. You cannot do that, can get consistent income if you have flipped the property. Flipping property is when you buy a property for a low price, you hold it for a relatively short period of time, generally a year or less, and then you sell it for a higher profit. That's quick money. The thing with that is not only do you cut off your cash flow, you also create tax issues. You have tax liabilities that come along with flipping property because I just told you that the government wants housing. So you're getting rich quick and you're buying a property and selling it for higher. The government's saying, okay, wait a minute, we're going to tax you for that. And so your profit there really isn't what your profit looks like because you're going to have to pay your capital gains taxes. You're going to have to pay taxes on that money, right? So this conversation isn't about flipping. This conversation is about good old-fashioned buying and holding. This conversation today is about good old-fashioned buying real estate and creating an additional source of income. We are having this conversation because, number one, real estate is a great way to build a legacy. Real estate is about ownership. And anything worth everything in America, in the world, has to deal with ownership. If you don't own things, you really cannot call the shots. You don't make the rules. You are just a participant. You aren't a leader. So when we talk about preparing and gearing ourselves up, we got to be thinking about what can we own. And so when we talk about real estate, I want you to think about it from a sense of when these property values get ready to move and get ready to shake, I need to be figuring out how I can own real estate. Own real estate to hold it, not own real estate to flip it. This is the tortoise and the hare, right? We aren't trying to get rich quick. We are owning real estate to hold it and then also owning real estate that you are going to rent out. So when I want to go back to the conversation about mortgages, because I understand that some people don't really understand that concept because we're programmed, right? And so we are living and thinking about debt as all debt being bad debt, and that's not the case. Bad debt, as far as I am concerned, is consumer debt. If you visit my social media today, you'll see that I was recently on the Rick and Sasha show, and there's a clip where I break down good debt and bad debt. We also talk about dating and debt, and if somebody has bad debt, if you should leave them and things like that. So check out my social media. On Facebook, it's Hyacinth Henderson. On Instagram, it's also Hyacinth Henderson. But I want you to think about this. Consumer debt is bad debt. And when you say, hi, see, what is consumer debt? plain and simple, consumer debt is the stuff that doesn't appreciate, right? So cars, number one choice of bad debt, that is consumer debt that does not appreciate. What does appreciate mean? Appreciate means increase in value. So consumption items that you consume, consumer and consumption, notice the similarities in those two words, that are not investments or are not for the purpose of doing business. So think about your debt, think about real estate debt as a way that we're having this conversation, and then have an enlightening moment and say, okay, let me get off of the horse of all debt being bad debt and understand that there's good debt and there's bad debt. And so now you should be thinking about what ways you need to eliminate your bad debt, that consumer debt, those credit card debt, that those cars, those student loans, all those things that don't appreciate and aren't giving you, aren't an investment. Those are consumer debt. Okay. So I want you to think about that. Now, as we prepare to go on this journey of real estate and you buying real estate, I have been doing this for the past 17 years. I realized that most people don't realize that there is a difference between what a realtor does. Let me go back. Let me not jump ahead. Most people don't realize what a realtor does. So a realtor is the person who is going to help you to find the real estate. A realtor, let me say this again, a realtor is the person who's going to help you find the property. If you already have a property, if your Auntie Susie, Sarah, or Jackie is selling her property and she wants to sell it to you, you don't necessarily need a realtor because you already have the property. But if you're listening to the sound of my voice and you're saying, wow, Hyacinth is piquing my interest, she's telling me that I need to get another pot on the stove, and real estate may be a great way to do that because the government is going to give me tax incentives for it. And there are tax laws that also allow me to depreciate the real estate property that I have so that in some cases I can end up paying very little to no taxes, right? Now you're getting into the big boy stuff. But now that I'm piquing your interest and you're thinking about real estate, when you go to buy real estate, you're going to need a realtor if you don't have the property. Understand this, the realtor is only responsible for helping you find the property. I want to say that again. The realtor is responsible for helping you find the property. I would like to say a realtor is like a personal shopper. Let's say you don't have time to shop, or, you just want to hire somebody to do your wardrobe for you. That's what a realtor is. They know all the stores. They know the stores that carry your sizes. They know the stores that carry the clothes that, accentuate your body best and things like that. But you still need to pay them. You need to give them the money to actually buy the clothing. Same thing with a realtor. A realtor isn't going to give you the financing. When you get ready to go to that realtor, they are going to say to you, well, are you pre-approved? And most people don't realize, what do you mean am I pre-approved? Well, who's going to approve me? I thought you were going to do everything. No, you either need to go to the bank or you need a mortgage broker. Now, let me tell you what the difference between a mortgage broker and the bank is. A mortgage broker is someone who's going to shop your credit score, your income. They're going to shop that around several places. A bank is only going to give you what they have. Right now you're listening to, I'm going to take a brief moment because we're getting ready to head into commercial break, so I don't want to go in too deep, but you are listening to the American Cream Radio Show. I'm your host, Hyacinth Henderson. We're live at 880 The Biz. If you have any questions, if you have any input, please feel free to call the studio 305-541-2350, and we will take a short break and we will be right back. Thank you so much.
Linda, people have worked very hard all their entire lives to save what they thought was enough for retirement.
Robert, what is enough? Especially in today's volatile stock market, so many people are concerned that they just may not have enough to retire. So what can they do?
All it really takes is sitting down with someone at the Henderson Financial Group to first educate you and then discuss your personal goals and objectives and working out a plan to help you succeed.
I agree. I'm Linda Linda V. Harris, Vice President of the Henderson Financial Group and a retirement planning specialist.
And I'm Robert Henderson Jr., Certified Financial Planner, the President of the Henderson Financial Group.
What I love about us at the Henderson Financial Group, Robert, is we've helped so many people just like you, just like our listening audience, prepare for a successful and prosperous retirement.
Don't wait. Call our office today at 305-825-1444, and you'll be glad you did.
Okay, if you are just joining me, you're listening to the American Cream radio show. I'm your host, Hyacinth Henderson. Cream is where we help you redefine the American dream on your terms with Cream. That's credit, real estate, entrepreneurship, assets, and mindset. And today we are talking about real estate. We are getting you prepared, getting your mindset ready for any shifts and changes that may be happening with the economy. We're getting you geared up and ready for ownership. We're getting you geared up and ready for war, right? We're getting you ready to add some additional pots on your stove. And right before commercial break, I started explaining what a realtor does and what a mortgage broker or a bank does. So again, if you're just joining, a realtor is a person who helps you find the house. Now, let's say you want to buy a property and your budget is $250,000. You need to be able to get financing or pay for that property. That most people aren't walking around with $250,000 in the bank. If they are, it would not be very smart. Let me say this again. If you do have $250,000 in the bank and you're looking to buy a piece of property, it wouldn't be smart to put all $250,000 into one piece of property. Why? Why not take that $250,000 and split it up 5 ways? $50,000 on 5 different properties, and then get you some financing so that you can leverage OPM, other people's money. Get the bank in bed with you. Right? So that if something happens and the values go, all your money isn't in the wall and doesn't tank, right? So think about that. If you are in a position to buy a property, $250,000, $500,000, whatever your big cash money amount is, if you can buy it cash, think about buying more, using that money to leverage, because real estate allows you to do that. Okay. So a realtor is a person that helps you find the house. You're going to need some financing. Most people think, okay, I need financing. Let me walk into the nearest bank and ask them for some financing. And in order for them to give you financing, they are going to need to pull your credit. That's another C. That's the C word in Cream, right? You see how that works? They're going to pull your credit. This is why credit is so important. Have no fear. Credit is can change very, very quickly. Your credit score, for those of you who are logged on to these credit monitoring agencies, you notice your score may be up 10 points today and down 5 points tomorrow. So if your credit is less than stellar, if your credit is not where you need it to be, I urge you, now is the time for you to pull your credit report, devise a plan, and correct your credit. Because you can always fix what is broken. So if your credit needs some help, it's not going to fix itself. You sitting there, ignoring the credit and not being proactive and devising a plan to fix your credit is not going to help you. You're going to need credit to be able to buy real estate so that you can own something, because ownership is the name of the game, and so that you can recession-proof yourself, so that you can add another pot to the stove, so that you can always make sure you eat. So when I break it down to you like that, and I say, listen, the government's going to give you tax breaks for owning real estate, then the government is going to give you more tax breaks if you have a mortgage on that property, I think now you're going to say, okay, let me go fix my credit. So in order to get some financing, they're going to want to pull your credit. If you don't know what your credit report looks like, you can download it for free at annualcreditreports.com. It's free, FREE, for the low price of FREE. You get it once a year. Pull your report and devise a plan to start actively working on your credit now. Okay, I don't want to go too much into credit because today is about real estate. But when you need financing, they're going to want to look at your credit score. When they look at your credit score, they're also going to look at your income. They're going to see where you work, how long you've worked. So if you're thinking about quitting your job because you just don't like it and you hate it there, and your boss got one more time to say something to you like that, hold off, because you're going to need a job, you're going to need employment, and in most cases, continuous employment for at least 24 months in order to qualify for financing for a mortgage for real estate. So remove the emotion. It's not about your boss. It's not about the job that you hate. You're not just going to up and cold quit it. You're coming up with the plan. And that plan is, okay, I got my credit together. They're going to need to pull my employment information. Now I'm going to give them all this stuff. They're going to look at my debts. They're going to see how many car loans I have, how many student loans I have, how much credit card debt I have, and they're going to do this fancy calculation to come up with what we call your DTI, your debt to income ratio. In layman's terms, get rid of your debt. In layman's terms, stop buying foolishness. Because when it's time for you to qualify for bigger and better, and when it's time for you to qualify for something that's going to bring in income, you don't want the fact that you're spending out money to hinder you. So they're going to pull your credit, they're going to look at your income, they're going to look at all your debts, and they're going to come up with the pre-approval. So now when you have that pre-approval, you can go back to the realtor, aka your personal shopper, right? Whether it's your personal shopper for clothes or your personal shopper for a house. When you have a personal shopper, they aren't paying for the items. They are simply going to buy the items or look for the items and show you where the items are that you want and use your money. So what did we just learn? We learned that a realtor finds the house. So if your cousin, mama, sister, auntie, TT do real estate, she can find the house for you. You need financing. Financing can come either by way of a bank or by a mortgage broker. I like mortgage brokers. Mortgage brokers because they have more options. If you go right to your local bank, whether it's Bank ABC, they're only going to give you what Bank ABC has. And most of the time, they're going to require a larger down payment. A mortgage broker is in a no. A mortgage broker is studying. They're looking at rates every day. They're looking at terms. And they say, okay, you got this credit score. You got this job. This is how your situation looks. You can get financing from Bank A. Or your situation looks a little bit different. You can get a loan from Bank B. So that's what a mortgage broker does. Either way, you're going to need either to go to the bank or a mortgage broker, get the pre-approval, which is another fancy word for saying they're telling you how much money you have to shop, and then take that to the realtor to buy the property. Okay, now I want to pause right here. So now we know the difference between a realtor and a mortgage broker, because I know a lot of people didn't know that. It happens all the time. I want to buy a house. I got a realtor. Are you pre-approved? No, I didn't know I need to be pre-approved. So now that you know that, I want you to think about real estate like this, because remember I said we aren't talking about the real estate that you're going to live in, your primary residence, because your house is not an asset. We are talking about purchasing a piece of real estate that you are going to rent out so that you can collect cash flow. So that if something happens, you can collect cash flow. My 8-year-old son has this thing about Teslas, and yesterday we saw 4 Teslas, and he said, okay, mommy, Tesla, we getting this Tesla in 5 months. I looked at him like, okay, bro, well, let me tell you what we are going to get. Before we get the Tesla, we're going to get another apartment building. I don't want to live in an apartment, not to live in an apartment, but we're getting an apartment building so that we can collect the rent from all the people who live in the apartment building. They're going to pay the bills, and then they're going to pay for the Tesla. Do you understand that, 8-year-old? Yes, I understand that, mommy. So bringing this conversation forward, when you go on a search for real estate, I want you to think about the fact that you want something that is going to have more than one door. I love real estate with more than one door, because if tenant A bump her head and decides she don't want to pay your rent no more, or if she decides she want to start stealing water and her rent is only $20 a month, can you tell this is a real story? Yes, it's a real story. And you have to evict her. At least you got tenant B who is still paying their rent because she's not stealing water. She didn't bump her head. right? So let's go back. As you have got your pre-approval, your credit is on point, your income is on point, and they say, boom, you qualify for $250,000. You take that pre-approval to your realtor and you say, you know what? I was listening to the American Cream radio show the other day, and Hyacinth said that anything from 1 to 4 units is still considered residential. So I know I'm pre-approved for $250. Let's see if you can find me a 4 unit with this same $250 approval. Let me go back. Anything from 1 to 4 units. That means a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex. When I say duplex, I mean 2 doors, aka 2 tenants. When I say triplex, I mean 3 doors, aka 3 tenants. And when I say fourplex, I say 4 doors, aka 4 tenants. The way that you look at that and the way that you translate that into money is 4 people to pay you rent every single month. You got it? 4 people to pay you rent, 3 people to pay you rent, 2 people to pay you rent. Whatever it is better than 1 person paying you rent, and it's certainly better than you paying the mortgage. Because when they're paying the rent, you're going to then use that rent to pay the mortgage, and then you're going to use the other money to put it away. So now you're creating, what are we talking about? Cash flow. Remember, we started this conversation, we're talking about the recession, we're talking about the state of the economy, we're talking about you getting so charged up, you redefining the American dream on your terms with Cream and real estate being one of those ways. We got to think outside the box. So when you hear Hyacinth say you need some real estate, I'm not talking about your dream house. When you hear Hyacinth say you need some real estate, I'm talking about something with 2 or more doors. And when you do 2 or more doors, you collect that money, you collect that rent so that you can start to build generational wealth. Do not fall for the okie dokie. Don't fall for the okie dokie. I know there are a lot of people want you to buy into the hype of having a free and clear property. But when you have a free and clear property, that is dead money. It's money in the walls. When the property values go down, your money that you paid free and clear is now worth whatever they say it's worth. If you buy a property for $250,000 cash and y'all president and the rest of the people get up tomorrow and say we're having a real estate crisis, and now all of a sudden your property is worth $100,000, you just lost $150,000, right? Now you got to wait for the market to come back up. But if you had a mortgage on that, and you only put a portion in to buy that property, you got the bank in bed with you, then you didn't lose all, or all of your investment didn't go down. And here's the key that I want you to think about. Pay attention to this. When the real estate market shifts, as long as your tenants are paying rent, why do you care if the value went down? Let me say that again. When this happened before, 10, 12 years ago, people were foreclosing on their investment properties. They were walking away from them. Oh man, I owe $300,000 and it's only worth $200,000 now. Wait a minute, are your tenants paying the rent? Because if your tenants are paying the rent, they're paying the mortgage, and you're getting cash flow, why are you buying into the propaganda of the news and the media and saying, oh my God, your property is worthless now, let it go? Because when you let it go, somebody else picked it up. So think about that. I want you to think about that. We're changing the game here. We're redefining this on your terms. Your term says, I'm going to be smart about this. My first property that I'm going to buy is going to be a rental property. When this market shifts, I am buying a rental property. I'm not going out. I'm not going to think like the 8-year-old and go get the Tesla. I'm not going to think like the 8-year-old and go get my dream home. I'm going to think a little more wiser. I'm going to be a little smarter, and I'm going to get something that is going to bring in income for me. This is what the formula is. The formula is to buy below market value. Okay? So if the property is worth $200,000 and they want $200,000 for it, that ain't your property. You got to buy the property below market value. Okay? After you buy the property below market value, you got to fix the property up. Any property that I buy, your tenants are going to treat you as well as you treat them. So anytime I get a new tenant or whatever the case may be, we have one conversation. Listen, let's do a walkthrough together. Let's see what needs to be fixed. I'm going to fix everything you need to fix. We're going to gut it out. We're going to fix it up. Then after that, you have 30 days. After the 30 days, within the 30 days you living here, tell me, oh, you didn't realize the sink was leaking or whatever the case may be. Let's be on the same page, because after that, we aren't having these conversations where you can't pay my rent because the toilet backed up. Well, you didn't tell me about the toilet. We had these conversations already. And so what I'm saying is, don't be a slumlord. Fix the property up, go in there, spend some money to do what you need to do to make sure it's livable. So you're going to buy, then you're going to rehab. After you rehab, you're going to rent. The reason you're going to rent the property out, notice I didn't say flip. They're a flipper. Some people flip. I'm not a flipper. Notice I didn't say flip because we want cash flow. Okay, so if you want cash flow, you're going to rent that property out. And as you rent that property out, that tenant or those tenants, because we just talked about at least 2, 3, 4 doors, right? Those tenants are going to pay the mortgage and you're going to set aside the other money. The cash flow from the real estate property is not there for you to go buy your favorite high-end purses and shoes. This is your first property. It's not time for that. No. It's not time for that. Let me say that again. As you start getting cash flow from your real estate property, your first one, maybe even your second one, that's not your cue to go get a BMW. That's not how this works. The way that it works, because we're redefining the American dream with Cream, we're being more smart and advanced. We're going to put that money aside because you want to have some reserves in case some little TT put a rubber ducky down the toilet. You got to get a new toilet. So you want to have some reserves for that. And then you also want to start building a kitty for your next property. So as we talk about next property, remember when I told you to buy the property below market value? Now you fixed it up. If all goes well, the property starts appreciating. I want you to refinance the property. I want you to consider refinancing the property. Remember I told you, don't fall for that free and clear, pay it off, okie doke. The reason why I want you to refinance that property is because when that property value goes up, I want you to get the money out the walls. We never know when it's going to go back down again. They can be sitting behind their desk and say, oh, it's a real estate crisis. When that property value goes up, take the money out. Make sure that your tenants can still, the rents from your tenants cover the mortgage. Now you see again why it's important for you to have 2 or more tenants. Not one door, you need 2 or more doors. Because if you got 3, 4 tenants, you're going to have, if the numbers are running right, which they should, because if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense, right? You're going to be able to take an increase in mortgage payment. So you refinance the property, pull money out of the property. And when you pull money out of the property, it is still not time for you to go buy the Tesla. When you pull money out of the property, guess what you're going to go do? You're going to rinse and repeat. You're going to buy another property. That's how we build generational wealth. That's how we build. We got a house over here, house over there, duplex over here. This is what we do. We got a property here, property. Everybody get a property. But you have to understand the formula, because when you think real estate, if you're thinking like the average American and everybody who's listening to the American Cream, you're above average. You're not average. You may have started listening as an average American, but by the time we get done, you're going to be above average. You're going to be so empowered. Your mind is going to be so stretched that you're going to start thinking differently. You're going to act differently. You're going to walk differently. You're going to pull your credit report, holler at your realtor, cut back your expenses, stop spending your money on foolishness, because I just gave you the formula. I just had you look at real estate in a completely different way. So when you think real estate, I want you to think about it as money. I want you to think about it as the government is going to give me incentives for owning real estate. The government is going to give me incentives for having a mortgage on this property. I need to get over here and get some of these incentives and then make some money in the meantime. So you're going to buy below market value. You're going to rehab the property. You're going to rent it out, not splurge on the money that you're renting out. You're not going to splurge your rental income. Let me say that again. I see a lot of people make that mistake. They start to splurge on that rental. Don't do it. You got to have that money working for you 2, 3, 4 times before you can then reward yourself. Then you're going to refinance. Then you're going to do it again. Now let's talk numbers, okay? So now that we got that, I got the mindset going. I got you looking at this in a different way. I want you to be thinking about how soon you want to be ready to buy your first real estate rental property. And we're talking about, remember I said residential is 1 to 4 units. Anything over 4 units gets into commercial. And when you get into commercial, you're going to require more of an investment. You're going to have more money that you're going to need to come to the table with. Also, they're going to look at your tax returns, and the property is really what they're going to look at as well. If you're new to the real estate game, I always advise or recommend that you start in the residential sector where it's 1 to 4 units, really 2 to 4 units, not 1. Because y'all know how I feel about 1 unit, where it's 2 to 4 units, and then you do that a couple times, and then you get ready to move into commercial. So when you think about how much money does this take, right? Because you're looking like, dang, Hyacinth, you told me it costs $200,000. I don't have $200,000. Well, you don't need $200,000. What you need is good credit. So fix your credit. I gave you the credit report, the website, so you can download your credit reports for free. Fix your credit, and then you're going to need a little bit of money to get in bed, right? So the bank is going to put the majority in, and then you're going to put some in. Depending on where you are, depending on your situation, you may be able to qualify for a first-time home buyer. If you are able to qualify for a first-time home buyer, you can buy a piece of property with as little as a 3% down payment. So for 3% down payment, if you're buying a property for $200,000, 3% is $6,000. Okay. So remember, I think a few moments ago I said cash and credit. We got to be focused on our cash and credit because we have a goal. We're focused on our cash and credit because we're going to need $6,000 as a down payment to purchase a $200,000 piece of property. Now, aside from the $200,000, the 3% down payment, you're also going to need closing costs. Closing costs average somewhere 6%. Yes, there are some instances where a seller may pay your closing costs. There are closing cost assistance programs. There are all these things out there available to you. I always recommend that you still have your money together. So knowing that you want to get into the real estate game, you need at least 9 to 10% of the purchase price. What does that mean? You need to stop buying shoes, stop buying purses, pack your lunch, stop charging things, cut back on the vacations. You need to do all these things to prepare so that you can upgrade your life. You can move into the big boy league and start buying investment property. Again, 9 to 10% of the purchase price. That's what you're going to need to get into the property. This doesn't include any rehabs that you may need to do or reserves that you need to have on hand. But we're going over these numbers not to intimidate you, not to scare you. We're going over these numbers so that you can be aware, because awareness is key. And so if I break down, I say, okay, you need $10,000 or you need $12,000. Okay, that's $1,000 a month. And then you further break that down into weeks. And then you further break that down into days. How much money a day do I need to either save or make so that I can achieve my goal of having a down payment to buy a real estate property? That's the way we need to think. That's where the mindset part comes in, because it's not rocket science, but you do have to have a mindset shift. And that mindset shift says, I want to play in the big league. That mindset shift says, I'm going to do things a different way. And when you're ready to do things a different way, then I guarantee you're going to get a different result. If you are just tuned in, you are listening to Hyacinth Henderson. This is the American Cream Radio Show, where we help you redefine the American dream with cream, and that's credit, real estate, entrepreneurship, assets, and mindset. Do I have any real estate investors listening? Do I have any people who have been waiting for this information? Feel free to give me a call. Call me at the studio. Don't be shy. I won't bite. I promise. The number is 305-541-2350. Once again, 305-541-2350. We're talking about real estate. And the reason why we're talking about real estate is because real estate is one of those ways where you can create, generate, transfer, pass wealth. And if you have children, it's a great way for your children to see you going to collect your rent at a young age, because then they get bit with the real estate bug at a very young age and they start to see things differently. So as we talk about real estate, and as we talk about the recession and understanding that prices are going to be dropping soon, they've been going up. They've been up for a long time. It's time for them to drop. We've been on this radio on the dance floor for a long time. We got the feet hurt now, right? Your shoes have expired, as I say. My shoes have expired. It's time to take them off. It's coming with the real estate market. Are you going to be prepared? What do you need to do to prepare? Do you have your mortgage broker? Do you have your realtor? Do you have to start thinking, hey, maybe you want to take a real estate course so that you can find your own property. Maybe you want to do that. That may be an additional source of income for you as well, because we know that the boom is getting ready to happen, right? Something's getting ready to shift. So would you like to sell real estate, or you just want to take the real estate license and buy your own real estate? But I want you to think about it in this way. We're not thinking about free and clear properties anymore. We aren't giving the people all our money and putting money in the walls. We want the bank to get in bed with us because we want to leverage their money. We want to take the money that we have and we want to flip it 2, 3, 4, 10 times. We want to use OPM, other people's money. I'm always going to talk to you about other people's money. Understanding that all debt is not bad debt. Debt that pays for itself, we're going to call that good debt. And if you do real estate the way that I just explained it to you, then you know that you're tapping into good debt, right? Because you're not paying for that. Your tenants are. All you're doing is being a good landlord. I'm Hyacinth Henderson. You're listening to The American Cream. Please make sure if you're on the social media, follow me on social media, Hyacinth Henderson. That's HYACINTH. The website is Hyacinth Henderson. The firm's website is thehendersonfinancialgroup.com. Give me a call. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. Give me a call and let me know if you have any questions. I'd love to take your questions, comments, or concerns. 305-541-2350. Thank you.
Hey y'all, did you know that women reaching the age of 65 are expected to live 2.3 years longer than men?
Wow, don't I know it? My friends and I talk about it quite often. And we're also less likely than men to have additional sources of income to help supplement our retirement income beyond our retirement years, Robert.
On top of that, Linda, Social Security might not be enough to cover your retirement needs or those of a loved one after you're gone.
That's why it's so important, and we keep saying it, just to give the Henderson Financial Group a call. You have to learn about ways to help supplement that Social Security income with additional monthly income.
We can tell you how to do that. I'm Robert Henderson, Certified Financial Planner, President of the Henderson Financial Group.
And I'm Linda V. Harris, Vice President of the Henderson Financial Group.
Call us today at 305-825-1444 and let us help you get started right away.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. You are listening to The American Cream Show. I am your host, Hyacinth Henderson, and on The American Cream, we help you, we show you, we guide you, lead you, and direct you on how to redefine the American dream on your terms with Cream. That's credit, real estate, entrepreneurship, assets, and mindset. And tonight we're talking about real estate. I have a question that came in on the social media on Facebook Live, and the question is, when you say investment, are you referring to a building? And I think I may have answered that, but let me go back. An investment property is something that you don't live in, right? An investment property is something that you get a return on the money that you put in. For the sake of tonight's conversation, with the understanding that I am speaking to new real estate investors, my conversation and my advice has been purchase a piece of property with at least 2 doors. We're going to call that investment property. Really and truly, if you purchase a single family home and you rent it out, that's investment property, right? Because you don't live there. The tenant is paying the mortgage. You own the building and you're using the money that the tenant pays to pay the mortgage for you. So we can consider that an investment property. That's absolutely an investment property. However, on the American Cream, I want you to think about investment property as being more than one door. When you think investment property from here on out, please think more than one door. Because if you think more than one door, then you will start to think, I can collect a check from you, a check from you, a check from you, a check from you. You can collect a check from as many doors, aka as many tenants that are living in that building. Now, for the sake of today's conversation, we're talking about residential investment property. Residential is 1 to 4 units. So that's residential is 1 to 4 units. A 2 unit is a duplex, a 3 unit is a triplex, and a 4 unit is a quad or a fourplex. And all of those, you will be able to qualify as a first-time home buyer. You can qualify the same qualification that you'll need to buy a single-family home. You can use that same pre-qualification and buy a property that is 2 units, 3 units, or 4 units. That's important because most people don't know that. That is very, very important. So if you march into your bank or into your mortgage broker and they give you, and you say, hey, I'm looking to buy a property, and they give you a pre-approval and it's for $300,000, have the understanding that you can use that $300,000 pre-approval or that $100,000 pre-approval to buy a property that's up to 4 units. Okay? That's important. Now, after you buy the property, we spoke about not balling out. We spoke about not rushing to pay off that property. The reason why we don't rush to pay off that property is because we don't want dead money in the walls. We want to be able to use all of our money, and we want to be able to leverage our money and leverage our credit. How do we leverage our money and our credit and our employment? We do that by taking out a loan on property, and then we become an owner. The world is built for owners. I started today's conversation speaking about the tax breaks and the tax code, and most people don't understand that the U.S. tax laws, I'm going to say this again, please pay attention. The U.S. tax laws are incentives. It's a large book that shows you if you do certain things, then the government will reward you and give you tax breaks. But most people miss that. We miss that because we're just like, oh my God, the taxes and blah, blah, blah. We don't want to get in tune. So think about it from this standpoint. The U.S. tax code are laws and incentives that largely explain how you can do certain things, and then the government will cut a deal with you so that you can pay less in taxes. So when we think about owning real estate property in that way, we're thinking about the fact that I don't want to have this property paid free and clear anymore because I want a tax break. I want whatever tax incentive is coming to me for this. And then aside from that, if the property values go down, I don't want all my money going down with it. I want some of the bank's money to go down with it. And then when the bank's money goes down and everybody's in crisis mode, guess what you then get to do with the bank? Renegotiate. Hey, say, bruh, I know I owe you $400,000, but the property's only worth $200,000. What say you? We call it even. And so you're in a position where you can negotiate. But if the property is free and clear, all your money has gone down with the ship. Who are you negotiating with? So think about real estate in that way, okay? Another thing that we started talking about is debt, good debt and bad debt. Every time we have a conversation, I'm going to ask you to think about your debt. Consumer debt that isn't paying you, that isn't appreciating in value is bad debt. Cut it. Cut it. Stop charging it. Things are shifting. It's time for you to get your cash and your credit in order so that when things change, you are not standing on the side of the fence complaining and moping. You're like, whoop, it's time to take advantage of this sale. Things have shifted. It's time. All right. You've been listening to me, Hyacinth Henderson. I'm a stockbroker, registered investment advisor, annuity and insurance broker at the Henderson Financial Group, located in beautiful Miami Lakes, broadcasting live on 880 The Business. You can catch me here each and every Friday night at 6 p.m. Also, follow me on Facebook, Hyacinth Henderson. I will see you next Friday. Peace.
You've been listening to the American Cream Podcast, the #1 audio production show for people who want to achieve the American dream with cream. Love this episode of the American Cream? Head over to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Thank you. For free resources and materials, go to theamericancreampodcast.com. Hyacinth Henderson is a registered representative of IFS Securities located in Atlanta, Georgia. FINRA, MSRB, SIPC. Any discussion of taxes herein is for informational purposes. You should consult with an attorney or an accountant concerning tax advice.
Hi, it's Joe Johnson. 880 The Biz is the station successful people listen to. And Beatle Brunch is where you'll find the biggest fans of the Beatles. Sunday at 3 in our new time, right here on 880 The Biz, where money talks and Beatles brunch.
This is a Bloomberg Market Minute. U.S. stocks are down on the latest U.S.-China trade dispute. China announced it plans to impose additional tariffs on $75 billion of U.S. goods, including soybeans, automobiles, and oil. Meanwhile, President Trump says he will respond. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down 598 points to 25,653. S&P 500 down 2.5%. The Nasdaq dropping 2.9%. West Texas Intermediate crude is down 2.1% to $54.17 a barrel. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell says the U.S. economy is in a favorable place